I want you to stop right now and listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to share with you is not theory. It's not philosophy. It's not something I read in a dusty book and decided to pass along. This is the living truth that transformed my own life and the lives of thousands who came before you, and it will transform yours too if you'll give me the next hour of your complete attention. I'm going to show you the one thing, the single master key, that unlocks wealth in ways that will seem almost magical to you until you understand the principle behind it. And here's what makes this so urgent, so absolutely critical for you to hear right now. You've been using this same power your entire life, but you've been using it backwards. You've been creating poverty with the same force that could be creating wealth. You've been manifesting limitation with the same energy that could be manifesting abundance. And the tragedy is that nobody ever taught you how to turn it around. I've spent my entire life studying the human mind, the subconscious, and the invisible laws that govern success and failure, riches and poverty, health and sickness. I've worked with people from every walk of life, the desperate and the hopeful, the millionaires who lost everything and wanted it back, the poor who were tired of being poor, the sick who needed healing, and I discovered something that changed everything. There is a formula, an actual, repeatable, never-failing formula for wealth. Not a maybe, not a sometimes, not a try this and see what happens. I mean a principle as reliable as gravity, as certain as the sun rising tomorrow morning, and I'm going to give it to you today, completely, holding nothing back. But I need you to understand something first. This isn't going to work if you're just casually listening while you scroll through your phone or think about what you're having for dinner tonight. This requires your full presence, because I'm about to challenge everything you think you know about money, about work, about deserve, about reality itself. Are you ready? Then let's begin where all true wealth begins, in a place most people never think to look. The place most people never think to look is not in the stock market, not in real estate seminars, not in cryptocurrency forums or business networking events. It's in the silent chamber of your own consciousness. Right now, in this very moment, there exists within you a creative power so vast, so unlimited, that if you could truly grasp even a fraction of its magnitude, you would never again experience a moment of financial anxiety. Let me tell you something that will sound radical to the rational mind. Money is not what you think it is. Money is not paper. It's not digits in a bank account. It's not even a medium of exchange. Money, in its truest essence, is frozen thought. It is consciousness that has taken material form. And because it is consciousness made visible, it responds to the same laws that govern all consciousness, the law of assumption, the law of mental equivalence, the law of subconscious acceptance. I want you to consider something right now. Think about the wealthiest person you know personally, not a celebrity, not a billionaire you've read about, but someone in your actual life who has abundant money. Now, I want you to notice something crucial. That person doesn't think about money the way you do. They don't carry the same energy around it. They don't speak about it with the same tension. They don't relate to it from the same consciousness. And here's what most people miss. It's not that they have money and therefore think differently. They think differently, and therefore they have money. This is the reversal that changes everything. You see, we've been taught that outer conditions create inner states. Get the money first, then you'll feel secure. Get the promotion first, then you'll feel confident. Get the success first, then you'll feel worthy. But this is backwards. It's an inversion of universal law. The truth is this: inner states create outer conditions, always, without exception. Your consciousness is the cause, your bank account is the effect, and I can already hear the objection forming in your mind. But Joseph, I've tried positive thinking, I've tried affirmations, I've tried vision boards and manifestation techniques, and I'm still broke. So clearly this doesn't work. And my response to you is this: you haven't failed because the law doesn't work. You've failed because you've been applying the law superficially, mechanically, without understanding its true nature. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't respond to wishes. It doesn't care about your Pinterest board or the affirmations you mumble half-heartedly while scrolling through your phone. The subconscious mind responds to conviction. It responds to feeling. It responds to belief so deep, so absolute, that it becomes the very foundation of your inner world. When I say you must impress the subconscious, I'm not talking about repetition alone. I'm talking about saturation. I'm talking about dwelling in the feeling of your wish fulfilled with such intensity that your inner conversation changes completely. Most people approach this work like tourists. They visit the idea of wealth or health or love for a few minutes a day, then spend the remaining 23 hours contradicting everything they supposedly believe. Let me tell you about a woman who came to one of my lectures years ago. She was desperate to heal a chronic illness that doctors had given up on. She told me she had been affirming health for months with no results. So I asked her a simple question: what do you think about when you're not consciously affirming? The silence that followed was deafening. Because the truth was, the moment she stopped her mechanical affirmations, her mind immediately returned to fear, to symptoms, to worst-case scenarios. She was trying to plant seeds in soil she was simultaneously poisoning. Real transformation requires that you become the person who already has what you desire, not pretend, not fake it, but genuinely shift your inner identity. When you truly believe you are healthy, you don't obsessively monitor every bodily sensation looking for proof of illness. When you truly believe you are prosperous, you don't panic at every bill or expense. Your natural, automatic thoughts align with your desired state. This is why I emphasize the state just before sleep so heavily. In that drowsy, relaxed state, your conscious mind releases its grip and your subconscious becomes extraordinarily receptive. This is your golden opportunity. Think of it this way. During your waking hours, your conscious mind is like a vigilant gatekeeper, analyzing, judging, questioning every thought that tries to enter. It's skeptical by design. When you tell yourself something new during full consciousness, this gatekeeper immediately says, "Wait a minute, that doesn't match our current reality. That's not true based on our past experiences." But as you drift toward sleep, that gatekeeper grows tired, its defenses lower. The door to your subconscious swings open, and whatever you plant there takes root without resistance. This is not mysticism, this is how your mind actually functions. I want you to understand something crucial. Your subconscious mind doesn't argue, it doesn't debate, it simply accepts and acts upon whatever you impress upon it with feeling and conviction. During that drowsy state, you bypass the analytical filter entirely. You're working directly with the creative power within you. Let me share what happens when you do this consistently. A man came to me completely broke, drowning in debt, seeing no way forward. I instructed him, every night, as you're falling asleep, feel the relief of financial freedom. Don't worry about the how, just feel what it's like to have abundance, to pay your bills easily, to have security. He did this faithfully. Within weeks, and I mean this, literally opportunities began appearing that he'd never noticed before. A former colleague reached out with a business proposal. He discovered he'd been underpaid for years and received back compensation. His thinking shifted so dramatically that he started seeing possibilities where he'd only seen obstacles. Was this coincidence? No. This was his subconscious mind, now impressed with abundance rather than lack, directing his attention, energy, and actions toward financial freedom. His outer world rearranged itself to match his inner conviction. This is what I mean when I say your subconscious is your faithful servant. It works tirelessly, day and night, to bring into your experience whatever you've accepted as true. But here's what most people do instead. They fall asleep rehearsing their problems, replaying their fears, imagining worst-case scenarios. Then they wonder why their circumstances never improve. You must become intentional about your final thoughts before sleep. This isn't optional if you want real change. Your last waking moments are too valuable to waste on worry, resentment, or anxiety. Think of it this way. Every night, you're handed a golden ticket. You get direct access to the most powerful creative force in existence, your subconscious mind, during those precious moments before sleep. Most people tear up that ticket without even realizing what they're throwing away. They replay arguments, rehearse tomorrow's anxieties, scroll through their phones until exhaustion finally takes them. What a tragic waste. Your subconscious doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and begins working immediately to make it real in your experience. When you fall asleep dwelling on lack, your subconscious says, "Yes, lack, I'll create more of that." When you drift off feeling unworthy, it responds, "Unworthiness, I'll manifest circumstances that confirm that belief." It's completely impartial. It's waiting for your instructions, and whatever you give it in those final moments becomes the blueprint for your tomorrow. I've seen people transform their entire lives by changing nothing except their last 5 minutes before sleep. One woman came to me drowning in debt, her mind consumed by bills she couldn't pay. Every night, she'd lie awake calculating numbers, feeling panic grip her chest. I told her to stop, just stop. Instead, I instructed her to spend those final moments feeling the relief of financial freedom, not hoping for it, not wishing for it, actually feeling it as though it were already true. She resisted at first. "But Dr. Murphy," she said, "how can I feel financially free when my bank account says otherwise? Isn't that lying to myself?" I explained that she'd been lying to herself for years, lying that her current circumstances were permanent, that nothing could change, that she was a victim of her situation. Those were the real lies. What I was asking her to do was tell herself the truth of what was possible, to align with the abundance that was her birthright. She committed to the practice. Every single night, without exception, she'd lie in bed and imagine opening her mailbox to find unexpected checks. She'd feel the texture of money in her hands. She'd sense the deep peace of knowing all her needs were met. Within 3 months, her financial situation had completely reversed. A promotion she hadn't expected, a forgotten insurance refund, new clients appearing seemingly out of nowhere. Was it magic? No. It was law. The law of subconscious manifestation that operates with mathematical precision. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You don't doubt. You don't worry. You simply trust the process. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you know with absolute certainty that nature will do its work. Your subconscious mind operates on the same principle. When you plant a thought, when you impress an idea upon it with feeling and conviction, it begins to work immediately. It doesn't question whether you deserve it. It doesn't ask if you're worthy. It simply accepts what you've given it and sets about making it real in your external world. But here's where most people stumble. They plant the seed of their desire, let's say it's financial abundance, and then, within hours, they're digging it up with doubt. Is it working? Why don't I see results yet? Maybe this doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm different. Every time you entertain doubt, you're pulling up the seed. You're disrupting the natural process. You're telling your subconscious mind, never mind. I didn't mean it. And so it stops working on your behalf. I've counseled thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you this with certainty. The ones who succeed are not necessarily the smartest or the most educated or the most talented. They're the ones who persist in belief. They're the ones who, despite external circumstances that seem to contradict their desire, continue to hold the vision. They continue to feel the reality of their wish fulfilled. Let me share another case with you. A woman came to me several years ago. She was a widow, living on a small pension, barely making ends meet. She had a grown son who hadn't spoken to her in over 5 years due to a bitter argument. The estrangement was eating away at her. She felt incomplete, hollow, as though a part of her soul was missing. I asked her a simple question. Can you feel what it would be like if your son walked through that door right now and embraced you? Tears streamed down her face. I can, she whispered. I can feel it so clearly. Then feel it every night before you sleep, I told her. Don't worry about how it will happen. Don't try to force it. Simply feel the embrace. Feel the reconciliation. Make it real in your imagination. She did exactly that. Night after night, she would lie in bed and imagine her son's arms around her. She would hear his voice saying, "I love you, Mom. I'm sorry." She would feel the warmth, the forgiveness, the restoration of their bond. 3 months later, on Christmas morning, there was a knock at her door. Her son stood there, eyes red, holding flowers. "I don't know why," he said, "but I woke up this morning and felt I had to come see you. Coincidence? Random chance? No." You see, your subconscious mind doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, "Well, that's a terrible idea," or "Are you sure about that?" It accepts what you impress upon it. It's completely impersonal. It will work just as hard to make you sick as it will to make you well. It will work just as diligently to bring you poverty as it will to bring you wealth. It doesn't care. It simply accepts the nature of your thoughts and begins to express them in your world. This is why you must become a gatekeeper of your own mind. You must stand at the door of your thoughts and say, "This may enter, this may not," because whatever you allow to take root in your subconscious will inevitably bloom in your experience. I've seen this principle work in the most remarkable ways. A woman once came to me, deeply troubled. She had been trying for years to heal a chronic condition. She'd been to doctors, specialists, tried every treatment available. Nothing worked. And do you know what I discovered? Every single night before bed, she would say to herself, "I'll never get better. This is just who I am now." She was programming her subconscious mind for failure. She was watering the seeds of illness with her own thoughts. I taught her a simple technique. Before sleep, that crucial time when the subconscious is most receptive, she would repeat, "My body is healing, every cell is renewed, I am vibrant and whole." She would feel it, visualize it, claim it as her reality. Within weeks, her condition began to improve. Within months, she was completely healed. The doctors called it spontaneous remission, but there was nothing spontaneous about it. She had changed the instruction manual she was giving to her subconscious mind. Now, you might be thinking, "But Joseph, what about the big things? What about the situations that seem completely outside my control? What about the economy, other people's decisions, circumstances that are already in motion?" Here's what you must understand. Your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence. It has access to pathways, solutions, and possibilities that your conscious mind cannot even conceive. When you impress a clear desire upon it, it begins to orchestrate circumstances, attract the right people, open doors you didn't even know existed. You're not manipulating reality, you're aligning yourself with the creative force that flows through all things. And when you align with that force, the entire universe begins to move in your favor. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing in a river. If you try to swim against the current, every stroke is exhausting. You fight and struggle, and you barely make progress. But the moment you turn around and swim with the current, suddenly everything becomes easier. You're still swimming, you're still taking action, but now the river itself is carrying you forward. That's what happens when you impress your desire upon the subconscious mind. You stop resisting, you stop fighting. You align yourself with the natural flow of abundance, and everything begins to move in your direction. Now, I know some of you are thinking, "But Joseph, I've been visualizing for weeks, maybe even months, and I still don't see results. When will it happen? How long do I have to wait?" And here's where most people fail. They plant a seed in the garden, and then they dig it up every day to see if it's growing. They check and double check. They worry and doubt. And in doing so, they destroy the very thing they're trying to create. The farmer doesn't plant corn and then stand in the field, anxiously staring at the ground, demanding that the seed sprout immediately. He plants it, waters it, and then he goes about his business, knowing with absolute certainty that the harvest will come. This is the mental attitude you must cultivate. Plant your desire in the subconscious mind through feeling and imagination. Water it daily with calm, confident expectation, and then release it. Trust the process. Know that it's already done in the invisible realm, and it's only a matter of time before it manifests in the visible. Time, you see, is just the interval between the impression and the expression, between the thought and the thing. And that interval can be shortened dramatically when you eliminate doubt and maintain unwavering faith. Think about the farmer who plants seeds in the soil. Does he dig them up every day to check if they're growing? Does he stand over them with anxiety, wondering if they'll sprout? No. He waters them, tends the field, and goes about his business with quiet confidence, knowing that the laws of nature are working beneath the surface. He doesn't see the growth happening, but he trusts the process completely. Your subconscious mind works the same way. When you plant a desire through prayer, through mental imaging, through feeling the reality of your wish fulfilled, you're planting a seed in the most fertile soil in the universe. But then you must leave it alone. You must trust. You must go about your day with the inner knowing that what you've asked for is already done in mind, and therefore must manifest in matter. I've seen people sabotage their own demonstrations countless times by this simple mistake. They pray beautifully. They feel their desire. They claim it as done. And then, an hour later, they're back in fear and doubt, digging up the seed to see if it's growing. They're contradicting their own prayer with their subsequent thoughts. Listen carefully. Your subconscious mind accepts what you really believe, not what you say you believe, not what you hope you believe, what you actually, deeply believe. And belief is demonstrated by the thoughts you return to habitually, the thoughts you entertain, the mental atmosphere you maintain throughout your day. If you pray for prosperity in the morning and then spend the rest of the day thinking thoughts of lack and limitation, you're not really believing in prosperity. You're believing in lack. And the subconscious, being entirely impersonal, will simply produce more experiences of lack because that's the pattern you're predominantly holding. This is why I emphasize the importance of watchfulness. Not strain, not effort, but gentle, persistent watchfulness over the tenor of your thoughts. When you catch yourself dwelling on the opposite of what you want, you simply redirect, not with force, not with self-criticism, but with the gentle firmness of a shepherd guiding sheep back to the pasture. When you find yourself dwelling on the problem rather than the solution, pause, take 3 deep breaths. Then deliberately shift your attention to what you desire. This is not denial, it is direction. You are not pretending the problem doesn't exist. You are choosing not to feed it with your mental and emotional energy. I have seen people transform their health by this practice alone. A woman once came to me with a chronic condition that had persisted for years. She had tried every treatment, consulted every specialist. Nothing worked. When I spoke with her, I discovered she spent hours each day researching her illness, reading about worst-case scenarios, imagining complications. Her subconscious mind was receiving a clear instruction: more illness, please. I asked her to stop. Stop the research. Stop the fearful imagining. Instead, spend that same time, those same precious hours, visualizing perfect health. See yourself moving freely. Feel the vitality in every cell. Give thanks for the healing that is already taking place beneath the surface of awareness. She resisted at first. But shouldn't I be informed? She asked. Shouldn't I know what I'm dealing with? I told her what I tell you now. You can be informed without being consumed. You can understand your situation without marrying it. There is a vast difference between knowledge and obsession. One empowers you, the other imprisons you. Within weeks, she noticed changes. Small at first, more energy in the morning, less discomfort at night. Within months, the condition had improved so dramatically that her doctors were baffled. They called it spontaneous remission. I called it the natural result of impressing health upon the subconscious mind instead of illness. This same principle applies to every area of your life. If you are struggling financially, stop rehearsing poverty. Stop telling yourself and others how difficult things are, how expensive everything has become, how you never have enough. Each time you do this, you are praying for lack, and your prayer is being answered. Instead, affirm abundance. Not because you see it yet, but because you are calling it into being. Speak to your subconscious as you would to a faithful servant. My needs are always met. I am surrounded by opportunity. Money flows to me easily and naturally. Say it with feeling. Say it with conviction. Notice how different that feels from "I need money" or "I'm so broke." Those old statements are declarations of lack. They're prayers to poverty. And the universe, through your subconscious mind, answers every prayer. Let me share something that happened to a man I worked with in Los Angeles. He was a talented musician, but he'd been struggling for years. Every conversation we had, he'd tell me, "The music industry is impossible. There's no money in it anymore. I'm barely scraping by." I said to him, "You're absolutely right. For you, there's no money in music, because that's what you've decreed." He looked at me like I'd slapped him, but I continued, "Your words are creative. Every time you say the industry is impossible, you're building that impossibility into your experience. You're not describing reality, you're creating it." We worked together for 3 months. He learned to change his inner conversation. Instead of "there's no money in music," he began affirming, "I am richly compensated for my talent. The right opportunities come to me at the right time." Within 6 months, he landed a contract that paid him more than he'd made in the previous 5 years combined. What changed? Not the industry, not the economy. His consciousness changed. And when consciousness changes, circumstances must follow. This is the law. It's not magic. It's not wishful thinking. It's the fundamental principle of how mind creates reality. Now, here's where most people stumble. They'll say their affirmations for a day, maybe a week. Nothing happens immediately. So they quit. They say, "See? I knew it wouldn't work." But you wouldn't plant a seed in your garden and dig it up the next day to see why it hasn't become a tree, would you? Of course not. You understand that growth takes time. You water it, you trust the process, and you allow nature to do its work. Your subconscious mind operates the same way. You plant the seed with your affirmation. You water it with repetition and feeling, and you trust that underneath the surface, in the dark soil of your deeper mind, something magnificent is taking root. And here's what most people miss. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between a real experience and one vividly imagined with feeling. When you close your eyes and see yourself living in that new home, feeling the joy, the relief, the gratitude, your subconscious accepts that as instruction. It begins to align your thoughts, your actions, your very energy with that reality. I've seen this happen countless times. A woman came to me once, desperate for employment. She'd been rejected dozens of times. Her confidence was shattered. I asked her to do something simple. Every night before sleep, imagine herself getting ready for work. See the clothes, feel the fabric, hear the alarm clock. Experience the satisfaction of having meaningful work. She thought I was insane, but she did it anyway. And within 3 weeks, she received a call for an interview she didn't even remember applying for. The position had been created specifically for someone with her unique combination of skills. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe in mental causation. Your subconscious mind is the connection between your thoughts and the infinite intelligence that governs all things. Call it God, call it universal mind, call it whatever aligns with your beliefs. The name doesn't matter. What matters is understanding that you are not separate from this creative power, you are an expression of it. When you impress an idea upon your subconscious with conviction and feeling, you set in motion forces that transcend your conscious understanding. Doors open, people appear, opportunities materialize, not through magic, but through the natural law of mind. But and this is crucial, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot affirm abundance while dwelling in thoughts of lack. You cannot claim health while obsessing over symptoms. You cannot declare confidence while replaying every past failure in your mind. The subconscious takes the dominant thought, the one charged with the most emotion, the one you return to most frequently. If you spend 5 minutes affirming prosperity but 5 hours worrying about bills, which instruction do you think prevails? This is why persistence matters more than perfection. Your subconscious doesn't judge the quality of your thoughts. It doesn't sort them into good and bad, true and false. It simply accepts what you impress upon it most deeply. This is both the danger and the opportunity. The danger is that careless thinking produces careless results. The opportunity is that deliberate thinking produces deliberate results. I want you to understand something profound here. Your subconscious is like a garden. Whatever seeds you plant will grow. It doesn't matter if you plant them intentionally or accidentally. It doesn't matter if you believe in the seeds or doubt them. Plant worry, and worry will flourish. Plant confidence, and confidence will bloom. The garden doesn't care about your opinions. It simply grows what you give it. Most people are completely unaware of what they're planting. They go through their days dropping seeds of fear, doubt, resentment, and limitation without ever noticing. Then they wonder why their lives don't look the way they want. They wonder why the same problems keep appearing. They're gardening unconsciously. Conscious creation requires conscious attention. You must become aware of what you're thinking, feeling, and believing throughout the day, not just during your morning affirmation, not just when you're trying to manifest something. Every moment, every thought, every internal conversation. This doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It means you need to be aware. When you catch yourself in a negative thought pattern, you don't need to feel guilty or defeated. You simply need to redirect, gently, firmly, the way you'd guide a child away from danger. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you're trying to heal your body, but throughout the day you keep saying, "I feel terrible, this pain is unbearable, I'll never get better." These statements, repeated with feeling, become instructions to your subconscious. Your subconscious then works to make them true, to align your body with your dominant belief. The principle is simple but profound. Your subconscious mind cannot reject what you consistently feed it with emotion and conviction. It doesn't argue. It doesn't debate. It simply accepts and creates. Now, you might be thinking, "But Dr. Murphy, my pain is real. How can changing my thoughts possibly affect something physical?" This is where most people stumble. They confuse acknowledgement with acceptance. Yes, you can acknowledge that you're currently experiencing discomfort without making it a permanent identity. There's a vast difference between saying, "I am experiencing some discomfort that is temporary," and "I am a sick person who will never recover." Let me share with you the case of a woman who came to me with chronic migraines that had plagued her for 15 years. 15 years of pain, doctor visits, medications that dulled but never eliminated the suffering. She had tried everything medical science could offer. When she finally came to understand the power of her subconscious mind, we began working with a simple affirmation. Divine healing is taking place in every cell of my brain right now. I am relaxed, peaceful, and pain-free. She resisted at first. How can I say I'm pain-free when I'm clearly not? She asked. I explained that she wasn't lying to her subconscious. She was giving it new instructions, a new blueprint to work from. Within 3 weeks, her migraines began to decrease in frequency. Within 3 months, they were completely gone. Years later, they have not returned. What changed? Not her circumstances, not some external medication. Her internal dialogue shifted, and her subconscious mind, which controls every autonomic function in your body, including circulation, nerve function, and cellular repair, began working toward health instead of illness. Here's what you must understand. Every single thought you think is a cause set in motion. Every word you speak with feeling is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. If you plant seeds of sickness, you will harvest sickness. If you plant seeds of health, vitality, and healing, you will harvest those instead. Your subconscious doesn't debate with you. It doesn't say, well, let me think about that. It simply accepts what you habitually tell it. This is why I emphasize the word times habitually asterisk. One negative statement won't ruin you, just as one positive affirmation won't transform your entire life. But the habitual, repeated patterns of thought, these are what shape your reality. I've worked with people who came to me with chronic conditions, ailments that doctors had labeled incurable. And do you know what I found? Time and time again, these individuals were constantly rehearsing their illness. They would wake up and immediately take inventory of their pain. They would describe it in vivid detail to anyone who would listen. They wore their diagnosis like a badge, introducing themselves by their disease. I'm a diabetic, or I'm arthritic. They had completely identified with the condition. And I would say to them, you are not your illness. You are a spiritual being, a focal point of divine consciousness. This body is your instrument, and it responds to the convictions of your mind. The turnaround always began when they stopped claiming the disease as their own. Instead of saying my arthritis, they learned to depersonalize it, to see it as a passing condition, not a permanent identity. They began to affirm, I am the perfect expression of God. Every cell in my body is filled with divine light and life. My joints are flexible, strong, and pain-free. At first, the conscious mind rebels. It says, but this is a lie. My joints hurt right now. And here is where faith enters. Faith is not believing in spite of evidence, it is being loyal to the unseen reality, the truth of your spiritual nature, while the evidence is still catching up. You must persist. You must saturate your mind with the truth you wish to experience. Morning and night, in moments of quiet, you impress upon your subconscious the image of perfect health. You feel it. You accept it. You give thanks for it as though it were already accomplished. And gradually, subtly, your body begins to respond. The subconscious, which controls every involuntary function, your heartbeat, your digestion, your cellular repair, begins to reorganize your physical structure according to the new blueprint you've provided. I cannot overstate this. Your body is not your master. Your mind is the master. Your body is the servant, and it will faithfully execute the orders given by your habitual thinking. Now, I want you to understand something profound about the relationship between your conscious and subconscious mind when it comes to physical healing. The conscious mind is the reasoner, the thinker, the decision maker. The subconscious mind is the doer, the builder, the executor of all physical processes in your body. When you make a conscious decision to impress your subconscious with health, vitality, and perfect function, you are giving marching orders to the most powerful healing force in existence. But here's what most people miss. Your subconscious doesn't reason or argue. It doesn't say, well, let me check with a committee of doctors first. No. It accepts what you give it as truth and immediately begins to work out the manifestation of that truth in your physical body. This is why two people with the same diagnosis can have completely different outcomes. One person accepts the diagnosis as a final verdict, a death sentence. They rehearse it mentally, emotionally dramatize it, tell everyone about their terrible condition. Their subconscious says, yes, this is what we believe. This is our reality. And the body conforms. The other person hears the diagnosis but refuses to accept it as their final reality. They say, this is a temporary condition. My body knows how to heal. I am now directing every cell to perfect health. They visualize themselves whole, healthy, vibrant. They feel the feeling of wellness. And their subconscious says, yes, this is what we believe. This is our reality. And the body begins to conform to this new pattern. I've seen this countless times. People told they had months to live, celebrating decades later. People confined to wheelchairs, walking again. Not because of some magical intervention from outside, but because they changed the images and beliefs held in their subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence, to the same power that heals a cut on your finger without your conscious involvement. Think about that for a moment. You cut your finger, and without any conscious effort on your part, your body immediately begins a complex healing process. Blood clots, new cells form, skin regenerates. You don't have to think about it, plan it, or manage it. It happens automatically. Why? Because your subconscious mind has access to infinite wisdom and infinite power. Your subconscious doesn't judge, it doesn't criticize, it doesn't say, well, that's a silly request. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and begins to work toward making it a reality in your external world. This is why you must be careful, supremely careful about what you think and what you feel habitually, because your subconscious is listening, always. It's recording every thought, every emotional state, every mental image you dwell upon, and then it sets about reproducing those patterns in your life. I've seen this time and time again. A man walks around all day thinking, I never have enough money, I'm always broke, things never work out for me. His subconscious accepts this as instruction. It begins to guide him unconsciously toward decisions, behaviors, and circumstances that confirm his belief. He misses opportunities. He makes poor financial choices. He attracts lack because that's what he's been programming into his deeper mind. But give that same man a new instruction: money flows to me easily. I am prosperous. Opportunities come to me constantly, and if he accepts this emotionally, if he feels it as true, his subconscious begins working in the opposite direction. Suddenly he notices opportunities he would have missed. Ideas come to him. The right people appear. His circumstances shift. The subconscious is impersonal. It works for anyone who uses it correctly. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, educated or unschooled, young or old. It responds to your mental impressions. Period. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Your subconscious is also connected to a greater universal intelligence. Call it God, call it infinite intelligence, call it the universe, the name doesn't matter. What matters is this: when you impress a desire upon your subconscious mind with faith and feeling, you're not just activating your own inner resources. You're tapping into a vast, infinite intelligence that knows how to bring about what you desire. This is why solutions often come in ways you never expected. You pray for prosperity, and an old friend calls with a business opportunity. You seek healing, and you stumble across an article about a new treatment. You desire love, and you meet someone in the most unlikely circumstances. Your job isn't to figure out the how. Your job is to plant the seed, the mental image, the feeling, the conviction, and let your subconscious, working through infinite intelligence, handle the details. Trust the process. This is crucial. So many people sabotage themselves because they try to control every detail. They say, I want this, but it has to happen this specific way. That's the conscious mind interfering. That's limitation. Your subconscious doesn't need your conscious mind's blueprint. It knows shortcuts you've never imagined. It sees doors you didn't know existed. When you release control and simply hold the vision of your desire with feeling, the universe orchestrates circumstances in ways that will astound you. I've seen people manifest homes, careers, relationships through paths they never could have planned. The opportunity came from a stranger on a bus. The job opening appeared the day after a company restructured. The perfect partner walked in when they stopped looking. These aren't accidents. This is how manifestation actually works when you get out of your own way. So practice this. Define your desire clearly. Feel it as already done, then let go of the how. Trust the process. Trust the infinite intelligence within you. Your job is the vision and the feeling. The universe's job is the delivery method. Now, let me address something that stops more people than anything else: the fear of not being worthy. You hear about the subconscious mind. You hear about infinite intelligence. You hear that you can have what you desire. And somewhere inside, a voice whispers, "But not me. Not someone like me." This unworthiness is perhaps the deepest block we carry. It's woven into us from childhood. We were told we weren't good enough, smart enough, talented enough. We made mistakes and were shamed. We were compared to others and found lacking. Layer by layer, we built a belief system that says, "I don't deserve good things." Let me be absolutely clear. This is a lie. It's a lie you were taught, and it's a lie you've been repeating to yourself, but it has no basis in truth. You are an expression of the infinite. The same power that spins galaxies into existence flows through you at this very moment. The intelligence that grows an oak tree from an acorn, that heals a cut on your finger without your conscious instruction, that orchestrates the complexity of your body, this is your intelligence. This is what you are. Do you think the infinite plays favorites? Do you think the creative force of the universe withholds itself from some of its own creations? That would be like your heart deciding to pump blood to your right hand but not your left. It's absurd. Every human being has equal access to this power. Not because we earn it, but because we are it. You don't have to qualify. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You simply have to accept what is already true. You are worthy because you exist. Let me tell you something about the nature of worthiness that most people never grasp. Worthiness isn't something that increases or decreases based on your actions. It's not a bank account where you make deposits through good deeds and withdrawals through mistakes. It's the ground beneath your feet, constant and unshakable, whether you acknowledge it or not. Think about a newborn child. That baby hasn't accomplished anything. It hasn't earned a degree, built a business, or helped anyone. Yet no one questions that child's worthiness of love, care, and dignity. Why? Because we instinctively recognize that worthiness is inherent to existence itself. But somewhere along the way, we forget this truth about ourselves. We start believing we must justify our existence through achievement, through pleasing others, through being productive every single moment. We internalize the message that rest is laziness, that self-care is selfish, that we must constantly prove we deserve the space we occupy. This is the great tragedy of the human condition, not that we are unworthy, but that we believe we are. Your subconscious mind has been recording every message you've received about your worth since childhood. Every time you were praised for achievement but not for simply being. Every time love felt conditional. Every time you were made to feel you had to earn your place at the table. These experiences created patterns, beliefs that now run automatically beneath your conscious awareness. But here's the liberating truth. Just as these beliefs were learned, they can be unlearned. Just as your subconscious accepted the lie of unworthiness, it can accept the truth of your inherent value. You do this not through force or willpower, but through gentle, persistent repetition of truth. You speak to your subconscious mind in the language it understands, feeling and imagination. You don't try to convince yourself intellectually that you're worthy. You feel it, you imagine it, you embody it. Close your eyes right now and imagine yourself as that newborn child again. Pure consciousness, untouched by judgment or criticism. Feel that innocence, that perfect rightness of simply existing. That child is still within you. Nothing has changed except the stories you've been told and the ones you've told yourself. Your subconscious mind doesn't need you to struggle. It needs you to believe. And belief doesn't come from force, it comes from feeling. This is where most people lose their way. They think affirmations are about repetition, about saying something 1,000 times until it somehow becomes true. But repetition without feeling is like planting seeds on concrete. Nothing grows there. When you affirm something to your subconscious, you must feel it as already done, not as a distant hope, not as a future possibility, but as a present reality. Let me give you an example. If you want to affirm health, don't stand in front of a mirror and mechanically repeat, "I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy," while your mind screams back, "No, you're not." Look at yourself. Instead, close your eyes, relax your body completely, and then truly imagine what it feels like to wake up with energy coursing through your veins. What does it feel like to move without pain, to breathe deeply and freely, to look in the mirror and feel strong? Feel the gratitude for that health. Feel the joy. Let your body respond to that feeling. Your heart will begin to believe what your mind is picturing. This is not fantasy. This is the language your subconscious understands. It doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. That's why a nightmare can wake you in a cold sweat. That's why a memory can make you smile or weep years after the event. Your subconscious responds to images and emotions, not logic. So, when you impress upon it the feeling of your wish fulfilled, it accepts that as fact. And once it accepts something as fact, it moves heaven and earth to make your outer world match your inner conviction. Now, I want to address something that troubles many people. They say, "But Joseph, I've tried visualizing, I've tried feeling, and nothing happened." Let me tell you why. You visualized once, maybe twice, then spent the other 23 hours of your day contradicting that vision with worry, doubt, and fear. You planted a seed, then dug it up every few hours to see if it was growing. Your subconscious needs consistency. It needs you to stay faithful to your vision, especially when the outer world hasn't yet reflected it. This is the test. This is where your true power is proven, not in the wishing, but in the persistence of belief despite appearances. And here's what most people misunderstand about persistence. They think it means repeating the same affirmation 1,000 times with gritted teeth, forcing themselves to believe while their heart rebels against it. That's not persistence, that's resistance dressed up as discipline. True persistence is gentle. It's the quiet return to your inner assumption, again and again, like coming home. When doubt whispers, you don't fight it. You simply redirect your attention back to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You don't argue with appearances. You acknowledge them, then turn inward to what you know to be true in consciousness. I remember a woman who came to me years ago, desperate to heal a relationship with her daughter. They hadn't spoken in 3 years. The outer situation looked impossible. Lawyers were involved. Harsh words had been exchanged. Pride had built walls between them. She asked me, "How can I possibly believe we're reconciled when every physical fact screams the opposite?" I told her what I'm telling you now. You don't need to believe despite the facts. You need to occupy a state of consciousness where those facts are irrelevant. You go within. You feel the embrace. You hear the laughter. You sense the warmth of reconciliation, as if it's happening now, in this moment. And you return to that feeling every single day, not as a chore, but as a refuge. She practiced this faithfully, not forcefully faithfully. There's a difference. Within 6 weeks, her daughter reached out. The reconciliation unfolded naturally, as if invisible hands had been rearranging circumstances behind the scenes. Because they had. The only hands were hers, working in consciousness. This is what persistence in belief looks like. It's not exhausting. When you're truly living from the end, it energizes you. It fills you with peace. You're not trying to make something happen, you're relaxing into the knowledge that it already is. And this is what most people misunderstand about faith. They think faith means hoping really hard. They think it means repeating affirmations until they're exhausted. But true faith, the kind that moves mountains, is quiet. It's certain. It doesn't need to convince itself because it already knows. You see, when you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You don't stand over it with doubt, wondering if you did it right. You water it. You trust the process. You go about your life knowing that nature is doing its work beneath the surface. That's living from the end. That's faith in action. Your subconscious mind is like that soil. Once you've planted the seed of your desire, once you've felt it as real and accepted it as done, your job is simply to maintain that acceptance, not to question it, not to test it, not to anxiously monitor every little detail of your external world looking for proof. I want to tell you something that might surprise you. The more you look for evidence that your desire is manifesting, the more you're actually affirming its absence. Because when you're living from the end, you're not looking for it to come, you're experiencing it as already here. Do you see the difference? One is waiting, the other is knowing. Think about something you take completely for granted in your life right now. Maybe it's the roof over your head. Maybe it's your ability to read these words. You don't spend your day affirming that you can read, do you? You don't wake up anxious, wondering if your literacy is going to show up today. You simply know it. It's assumed. It's done. That's the consciousness you want to bring to every desire. Now, I'm not saying you ignore the physical steps when they appear. If you're living in the state of already having your desire, inspired action will feel natural. It won't feel like strain or force. It'll feel like the obvious next thing to do. The person who truly feels wealthy doesn't reject opportunities, they recognize them as part of their wealth already flowing. But here's what changes. You're not taking action from desperation. You're not scrambling, trying to make it happen through sheer effort. You're moving from a place of fullness, not lack. And that makes all the difference in what you attract and how quickly it comes. This is why timing falls into place when you're operating from this consciousness. You stop forcing doors that aren't ready to open, and you stop missing the ones that are. You develop what I call divine timing, not because some external force is orchestrating your life, but because you're in harmony with the natural flow of your good. Think about it. How many times have you looked back on something that didn't work out and realized later it was a blessing in disguise? The job you didn't get led you to a better opportunity. The relationship that ended made space for the right person. You've seen this pattern in your own life. That's not random luck. That's the intelligence of your subconscious protecting you, redirecting you, because underneath your conscious disappointment, you were actually aligned with something greater. When you claim your desire is already done, you activate this intelligence deliberately. You're not waiting for life to teach you through painful detours. You're consciously cooperating with the principle that's always working for your highest good. Now, here's where people get tripped up. They think, if it's already done, why do I need to do anything at all? Can't I just sit on my couch and visualize? No, that's passivity disguised as faith. Real faith is active. It moves, it responds. When you truly believe something is yours, you behave accordingly. You take the inspired actions that come to you naturally. The difference is in the energy behind the action. Are you acting from desperation, trying to make something happen because you don't believe it will happen otherwise? Or are you acting from inspiration, following the natural impulses that arise because you're already in alignment with your desire? One exhausts you. The other energizes you. I've watched people work twice as hard and get nowhere because they were operating from fear and lack. And I've watched others take simple, almost effortless steps and have everything fall into place because they were operating from faith and fulfillment. Same actions on the surface, completely different energy underneath. And the subconscious responds to the energy, not the action. So when you claim it is done, you're not becoming passive, you're becoming powerful. You're moving through your day with a quiet confidence that draws opportunities to you. People sense it. Circumstances align with it. You become magnetic, not through effort, but through embodiment. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. Your subconscious mind radiates through every gesture, every word, every decision you make. When you are internally unified, when your conscious desire and subconscious acceptance are one, you operate from a place of quiet power. I've watched this transformation in countless individuals. A woman came to me once, struggling with a business that was failing. She had tried everything, new marketing, new products, longer hours. Nothing worked. When we sat down together, I asked her a simple question. What do you believe about money? She hesitated, then admitted, I believe wealthy people are greedy. I believe wanting more makes me selfish. There it was. Her conscious mind wanted success, but her subconscious mind was programmed with guilt and fear around prosperity. Every effort she made was sabotaged from within. We didn't work on her business. We worked on her beliefs. I taught her to affirm, money flows to me easily and naturally. I am a channel for prosperity, and I use it to bless myself and others. She repeated this daily, with feeling, until it became her inner truth. Within 3 months, her business turned around. Not because the market changed, not because she suddenly discovered some secret strategy, because she changed. Her energy shifted, her decisions became clearer, opportunities that were always there suddenly became visible to her. She stopped repelling what she claimed to want. This is the difference between action rooted in fear and action rooted in faith. Fear-based action is frantic, exhausting, and often counterproductive. Faith-based action is calm, inspired, and effective. When your subconscious mind accepts your goal as reality, your actions flow naturally. You don't force. You don't strain. You move with the current, not against it. Let me be very clear about something. This is not passivity. This is not sitting on your couch and waiting for the universe to deliver. This is about aligning your inner world so completely that your outer actions become an effortless expression of that alignment. You still take steps, you still work, but the work feels different. It feels lighter. It feels inevitable. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It simply accepts what you consistently impress upon it and then works tirelessly to make it your reality. This is the fundamental nature of the subconscious mind. It's impersonal. It's mechanical in its operation. It doesn't say, well, I like this person, so I'll make their thoughts come true, but not that person over there. No. It works for everyone equally, impartially, according to the mental patterns they've established. Think about this. Your subconscious mind right now is producing results in your life based on the habitual thoughts you've been thinking. If those results aren't what you want, you can't blame the subconscious. It's only doing what it's designed to do. It's like blaming a garden for growing weeds when you've been planting weed seeds every day. The responsibility lies with you with your conscious mind. You're the gardener. You choose what seeds to plant. You choose what thoughts to accept and impress upon your subconscious. And that's actually the most empowering realization you can have, because it means you're not a victim of circumstances, you're not at the mercy of luck or fate. You're the operator of the most magnificent creative mechanism in the universe. Now, here's where most people get tripped up. They try to change their circumstances directly. They push and struggle and fight against what they don't want. They try to manipulate the outer world while completely ignoring the inner world where all creation begins. Let me give you an example. A man wants financial abundance, but every time he looks at his bank account, he feels anxiety and lack. Every time a bill arrives, he thinks, I can't afford this. Money is so hard to come by. I'm always struggling. Then he wonders why his financial situation never improves despite working harder, despite trying different strategies, despite all his outer efforts. What's happening? His conscious mind might want wealth, but he's impressing poverty consciousness on his subconscious mind. And the subconscious doesn't care about what you want in theory. It only responds to what you're actually feeling and believing consistently. It's creating his outer circumstances to match his inner mental atmosphere. This is why affirmations alone often don't work for people. They'll stand in front of a mirror and repeat, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, while their whole being is screaming the opposite. There's no feeling behind it, no conviction, no actual belief. You're just repeating sounds without meaning. You might as well be reciting a phone book. Your subconscious doesn't respond to empty words. It responds to feeling, to emotion, to the living reality you create in your imagination. So here's what you do instead. Before you affirm anything, take a moment, close your eyes, get quiet, and ask yourself, asterisk, how would I feel if this were already true? Asterisk, if you're affirming health, don't just say I am healthy. Feel what health feels like. Imagine waking up with energy coursing through your body. Picture yourself moving freely, breathing deeply, feeling vibrant and alive. Let that sensation wash over you. Let it become real in your awareness. If you're affirming abundance, don't just repeat, I am prosperous. Feel what prosperity feels like. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing plenty. Feel the relief, the freedom, the sense of security and possibility. Let yourself experience the emotional reality of already having what you desire. Because here's the truth. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and an actual one. When you combine words with feeling, when you add emotion to your affirmations, you're no longer just talking. You're times impressing asterisk. You're making an imprint on the creative medium of your subconscious mind. Think of it this way. If I asked you to remember a powerful moment from your past, what comes to mind? Not just the facts of what happened, but the feeling times of it. The emotion, that's what makes memories stick. That's what makes them real to you. Your affirmations work the same way. When you infuse them with feeling, when you make them emotionally real, they become memories of a future that your subconscious mind accepts as fact. And here's something else. You don't need to affirm something 1,000 times a day. Quality matters far more than quantity. One affirmation spoken with deep feeling and conviction can accomplish more than 100 affirmations repeated mechanically. This is why the best time to practice is often just before sleep. Your conscious mind begins to relax its grip. The critical faculty that says, this isn't real, or "I can't have this," starts to fade. In that drowsy state between waking and sleeping, your subconscious becomes remarkably receptive. I've counseled thousands of people over the years, and those who achieved the most dramatic results were those who made it a sacred ritual to spend those final moments before sleep dwelling on their desired state, not worrying about tomorrow's problems, not replaying today's frustrations, but gently, persistently, lovingly impressing upon their subconscious mind the reality they wish to experience. One woman came to me years ago, desperate to improve her relationship with her daughter. They hadn't spoken in over 2 years. The hurt ran deep on both sides. I told her, "Every night before you sleep, imagine your daughter calling you. Hear her voice. Feel the warmth in your heart. See yourself embracing her. Don't think about how it will happen. Don't analyze whether she will or won't. Just feel the reality of reconciliation." She practiced this faithfully for 3 weeks. Then one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, her phone rang. It was her daughter. They talked for hours. The healing had begun. Did my client make it happen through some mystical power? No. She impressed upon her subconscious mind a new image of reality. Her subconscious then began to work toward that end, changing her energy, her attitude, perhaps even influencing circumstances in ways we don't fully understand. The law worked because she worked the law correctly. Now, I want to address something that troubles many people, the question of time. How long does it take for a prayer to be answered? How long before manifestation occurs? The truth is, there is no fixed answer. Some prayers are answered almost instantly. Others take weeks, months, or even longer. But here's what I can tell you with absolute certainty. The length of time is usually proportional to your conviction and the depth of your acceptance. If you truly, genuinely accept something as real in your mind, the outer manifestation often follows quickly. Let me share something that might surprise you. I've seen cases where someone manifested a new job in 3 days, and I've seen others take 3 months to manifest the exact same thing. What was the difference? It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't education. It wasn't even the clarity of their desire. The difference was emotional conviction. The person who manifested in 3 days had a quiet, unshakable knowing. They impressed their subconscious once, maybe twice, and then they let it go completely. They trusted. They believed. They moved forward, as if it were already done. The person who took 3 months, they impressed their subconscious every day, but they also doubted every day. They affirmed in the morning and worried by afternoon. They visualized success at night and feared failure by dawn. They were like someone planting a seed and then digging it up repeatedly to check if it was growing. You cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot impress your subconscious with success while simultaneously feeding it images of failure. The subconscious doesn't judge. It doesn't say, "Well, you worried more than you believed, so I'll give you the worry." No. It responds to the dominant impression, the habitual mental atmosphere you maintain. This is why I always emphasize the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you think about your desire, what feeling accompanies that thought? Is it joy, gratitude, relief, peace? Or is it anxiety, longing, desperation? The feeling is everything. The feeling is the language your subconscious understands most clearly. If you can generate the feeling of already having what you desire, if you can wear that feeling like a comfortable garment throughout your day, you accelerate the manifestation process dramatically. This isn't pretending. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is recognizing that in consciousness, in the only reality that truly matters, you already have it. When you prayed for something and felt relief, as though a burden had been lifted, that prayer was answered. When you prayed and felt nothing but continued anxiety, that prayer bounced off the walls of your own doubt. This is why gratitude is so central to manifestation. Not gratitude as a transaction times, I'll be grateful so God gives me more times, but gratitude as recognition. When you're grateful for your desire as though it's already yours, you're not pretending. You're acknowledging the truth of consciousness. You're saying, asterisk in the realm that creates all things, this is already done. Asterisk. I've watched people struggle with this. They say, "But Joseph, I don't have the money yet. How can I be grateful for it?" And I tell them, you're grateful because you understand that consciousness is cause. The 3-dimensional world is effect. You don't wait for the effect to feel the feeling. You generate the feeling, and the effect must follow. That's law, not hope, not wishful thinking law. Think of it this way. If you ordered something and received a confirmation that it's been shipped, would you stand at your door panicking that it's not there yet? Would you call the company every hour, desperate and anxious? No. You'd go about your life knowing it's on its way. That's the feeling. That's the state. You've placed your order in consciousness, and consciousness times never times fails to deliver. But most people never truly place the order. They window shop. They add things to their cart and abandon them. They fantasize without times, impressing times the subconscious mind, and then they wonder why nothing changes. The subconscious doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't care about your wishes, your hopes, your desperate pleas. It responds only to the feeling, the conviction, the times assumption, times impressed upon it. When you assume something is true, when you feel it as real, the subconscious mind accepts it without question and proceeds to make it so in your outer world. This is why I've always said, live in the end, Don't live in the desire, don't live in the wanting, live in the times having asterisk. What would it feel like if your desire were already accomplished? Not tomorrow, not next week times now asterisk. Catch that feeling, dwell in it, return to it again and again until it becomes natural, until it becomes times you asterisk. And here's what happens. The moment that assumption becomes natural, the moment you no longer try times to feel it but simply times do asterisk, your outer world has no choice but to reflect it. It must. Because consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is its shadow. So let me ask you something. What would happen if you stopped waiting? What would happen if you stopped looking for proof, stopped searching for signs, stopped wondering times when times it's going to happen? What if you simply decided, right now, that the thing you want is already done? Not because you're pretending, not because you're faking it, but because you understand that in consciousness, it already times is times done. The moment you assume it, it exists. The moment you feel it as real, it's already complete. Your outer world is just catching up. See, most people treat their desires like distant destinations. They think, one day, when I get there, asterisk, then times I'll be happy. Asterisk, then times I'll feel secure. Asterisk, then times I'll feel worthy. But that's backwards. You don't wait for the condition to feel the feeling. You times generate times the feeling, and the condition follows. You don't wait for the money to feel abundant. You feel abundant, and the money comes. You don't wait for the relationship to feel loved. You feel loved, and the relationship appears. Because consciousness is cause, the outer world is effect, and when you finally understand this, when you finally accept that you're not waiting for anything, that you're not at the mercy of time or circumstance or luck, everything changes. You stop begging. You stop hoping. You stop wishing things were different. Instead, you times claim times what's yours. You assume the state. You occupy the consciousness of the wish fulfilled, and you let the world rearrange itself to match. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but Joseph, I've tried this. I've visualized. I've affirmed. I've felt the feeling, and nothing happened. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because you did it times once asterisk, or you did it for a few days, or you did it while still holding onto the old assumption underneath. You can't plant a seed and dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You can't assume a new state and then spend the rest of your time doubting it, questioning it, wondering if it's working. The assumption must be maintained, not forced, not gripped with white knuckles, but gently, persistently held in consciousness like you'd hold a truth you've always known. When doubt comes, and it will come, because the old patterns don't surrender without a fight, you don't battle it. You don't try to wrestle it to the ground, you simply return to your assumption, like coming home, like remembering who you are. This is where most people exhaust themselves. They think the work is in the fighting. They think they have to defeat every contrary thought, every whisper of the old story. But that's not how this works. The more you fight a thought, the more power you give it. The more you resist a feeling, the more it persists. Instead, you acknowledge it. Oh, there's that old pattern again. And then you turn your attention back to what you're assuming to be true. Not as a way to avoid reality, but as a way to create it. You see, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's imagined with feeling and what's experienced with the senses. It only knows what you consistently accept as true. So when you repeatedly return to your new assumption, when you feel it is real over and over again, your subconscious begins to accept it. It begins to reorganize your world around this new truth. And here's what's beautiful. You don't have to monitor every thought. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be persistent in returning to your chosen state. Like a compass needle that always swings back to north, you keep returning to the assumption that aligns with your desire. This is the practice, not a one-time event, not a technique you try for 3 days. A practice, a way of being that becomes more natural the more you do it. And as you practice, something shifts. The assumption that once felt like pretending begins to feel normal. What once required effort starts to become automatic. The new story stops being the new story and just becomes your story. This is when the outer world begins to reflect what you've been maintaining within. Not always in the way you expected, not always on your timeline, but always in alignment with the state you've been faithful to. This is why the mystics spoke of living in the wish fulfilled. This is why Neville Goddard insisted you must think times from times the end, not times of times the end. There's a world of difference between those two small words from and of. When you think times of times something, you're looking at it from a distance. You're admiring it, wanting it, hoping for it. There's separation, there's lack, there's a gap between here and there. But when you think times from times something, you're standing inside it. You're seeing the world through the eyes of the person who already has it. You're breathing the air of that reality. You're making decisions from that place. And your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. This isn't poetic language. This is neuroscience. This is how your nervous system works. When you imagine something with enough sensory detail, with enough emotional investment, your brain fires the same neural pathways it would if you were actually living it. You're quite literally rewiring yourself. I've watched people transform their entire financial situation by persistently assuming the feeling of wealth, not by chasing money, not by obsessing over bills, but by internally occupying the state of abundance until it became natural to them, and then the money came. Sometimes through expected channels, a promotion, a business opportunity, sometimes through completely unexpected ones, an inheritance, a windfall, a door opening they never knew existed. The subconscious is infinitely resourceful. It will find a way, but it needs your cooperation. It needs you to stop contradicting with your conscious thoughts what you're trying to impress upon it. You cannot spend your days worrying and your nights visualizing and expect the visualization to win. The worry is also a form of prayer. The anxiety is also programming. Whatever you emotionally charge and repeat becomes the instruction your subconscious follows. So guard your thoughts as you would guard your most valuable possession, because they are your most valuable possession. They are the seeds of your tomorrows. Stop rehearsing your limitations. Stop narrating your lack. Stop giving voice to fear and doubt every time they knock on your door. Instead, begin to speak to yourself as though the thing you desire is already done, not as pretense, not as wishful thinking, but as deep inner knowing. The universe doesn't respond to your words alone. It responds to the consciousness behind those words. This is why two people can speak the same affirmation, yet one experiences transformation while the other experiences nothing. What makes the difference? The feeling, the conviction, the absolute acceptance that what you are claiming is already yours in the invisible realm of spirit. When you say, "I am prosperous," are you trying to convince yourself? Or are you recognizing a spiritual truth that is already established? There's a world of difference between these two approaches. One comes from lack, the other comes from fullness. One is begging, the other is claiming. One is hoping, the other is knowing. The subconscious mind accepts what you feel to be true, not what you hope might become true someday, not what you desperately want, but what you accept as true right now, in this present moment. This is why gratitude is such a powerful force. When you give thanks for something before you see it, you are affirming that it already exists. You are living from the end. You are dwelling in the reality of its completion. Think about this carefully. When do you give thanks? When something has already happened. When something has already been given to you. When you give thanks in advance, you are signaling to your subconscious that the work is done, the prayer is answered, the desire is fulfilled. This is not trickery. This is alignment with spiritual law. Jesus gave thanks before Lazarus emerged from the tomb. He gave thanks before the loaves and fishes multiplied. He gave thanks because he knew that in the realm of spirit, it was already accomplished. And what was the result? The invisible became visible. The spiritual took form in the material world. This is your power too. This is your inheritance as a spiritual being. You are not separate from the creative power that formed galaxies and set stars in motion. You are an expression of it, an outlet for it, a channel through which it flows. When you truly grasp this, prayer becomes effortless. Manifestation becomes natural. Living becomes joyous. You no longer need to force, to struggle, to convince God of your worthiness. You simply accept that the law is already working. Your subconscious mind is already listening. The infinite intelligence within you is already responding. This is the secret that transforms everything. You are not trying to make something happen from nothing. You are recognizing what already exists in the invisible realm and allowing it to become visible in your experience. Think of it like this. A sculptor doesn't create the statue. The statue already exists within the marble. The sculptor simply removes what doesn't belong, revealing what was always there. Your work is similar. You're not creating your good fortune from scratch. You're removing the mental blocks, the doubts, the contradictory beliefs that hide the abundance that already surrounds you. The universe is not withholding anything from you. You are withholding yourself from the universe through your limiting beliefs. Let me give you one final illustration that brings this all together. Imagine you're standing in a room filled with radio waves, signals from 1,000 different stations broadcasting simultaneously. Music, news, conversations, all happening at once in the same space. Yet you hear nothing until you turn on a radio and tune to a specific frequency. The broadcasts were always there. You didn't create them by turning on your radio. You simply aligned yourself with one particular signal, and suddenly, it became your reality. Change the dial, change your reality. But the changing happens first in your instrument of reception, not out there in the broadcasting station. Your consciousness is that radio. Your thoughts and feelings are the dial. The frequency you're tuned to right now is creating the life you're experiencing. If you don't like what you're hearing, you don't curse the radio waves or blame the universe for broadcasting the wrong content. You simply change the station. You change your mental frequency. This is what prayer truly is, tuning your consciousness to the frequency of your desire fulfilled. When you do this consistently, with feeling and conviction, your outer world must change to match. It's law, it's principle, it's as reliable as gravity. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, ask yourself, what frequency am I tuned to? Am I broadcasting lack or abundance, fear or faith, resentment or gratitude? Whatever you're dwelling upon, you're drawing toward you. Choose wisely, choose consciously, choose with the awareness that you are the artist of your own experience, painting your tomorrow with the brush strokes of today's thoughts.